of the world, reality is actually affecting small businesses, small and mid-sized businesses as well, and not in a specific industry, but across every commercial sector. So my objective today is if you are not to scare the heck out of you and to make sure that you understand that this is extremely serious business that we need to really look as a small business community and put it in the front burner of what we have to do day in and day out. So let's get started. Only if my, there it is. Okay, so yeah, as I mentioned, there's an increased number of cyber threats out there. Just to mention a few of them, 2019 was the worst year on record, but from all information, it appears that 2020, and the numbers are still being tallied up, 2020 was even worse. At least in the number of records exposed, we're looking at about 44 billion compared to the 15 in 19. In 19 is when we saw a big jump on the number of attacks to small and mid-sized businesses that beforehand had not been there. So that's a big concern for us because small businesses face a different set of challenges. In addition, 80% of the data breaches contain customer personal identifiable information. That means that whenever they hit small businesses, they ended up taking credit card information, social security information, employee identifiable information, and so on. That's a big problem for all of us. 52% of the breaches were caused by malicious attacks. I mean, it didn't just happen out of a coincidence. The bad guys are after us in order to take some of our money. And if you look at the news, if you read the news, you know that the ultimate intent is to take money away in the form of cryptocurrency. The average ransom demand in 2020, it was already 178,000, and that's in the first half only, which is much more than what they were asking for in 19, which in 19 we experienced an average of about $41,000 for every ransom demand. So they're getting greedier, they're getting better at it, and of course they're really looking for any area that we have a weakness on, and they attack it very, very good. Lastly, we do expect the cybercrime cost to skyrocket to about 6 trillion this year 2021. And that not only includes the cost of ransomware, but also the cost to protect the businesses, to help clients resolve the issues that are created by these attacks, and to clean reputations of businesses that were affected by ransomware or any other kind of attack. However, and even with this impactful news, 25% of the small and mid-sized businesses are spending less and less in cybersecurity. And that's what we need to address today, and I'll do as we go in the next few slides. Just so that we know, the great majority of cyber attacks to small businesses are happening through phishing. As you know, phishing is just a way for the bad guys to take information away from you, be it cybersecurity, passwords and usernames, or maybe social security numbers. Or the whole idea in a phishing email is to get you to provide them with the information that they're looking for. The next big one is compromised or stolen credentials. We all know that the big banks are getting hit all the time. The federal government, the state government are also being affected. And so whatever information they steal from the government is used to attack the users. Not long ago, we were experiencing a lot of false unemployment claims that employees that were never fired, that were still at work, and somehow the bad guys got a hold of their information and started to claim the benefits. That went on for a while. As a matter of fact, several of our clients had that problem. We worked with them and found out that it was a hoax, but that started at the Texas, actually, it was several states unemployment commission, which push it up to the federal level. We're not really sure, where all that came from, but we experience it here locally. So those are the two greatest ways for hackers to get into your information. One of the things that people don't realize is that the majority of the threats happen inside the company. Just to give you some idea, 30% of the data loss incidents are caused by internal actors, either disgruntled employees, uninformed employees, or untrained employees that end up either uh, uh, clicking on a link on a malicious email, or they decide to erase a complete folder of information, important information for the business. 60% of the breaches can be linked to unpatched systems. You know, every computer is being patched with security updates on an ongoing basis. If you are not proactively doing that, you really have systems that are vulnerable to attacks from the outside. Uh, Another important component of the threat is that 45% of employees are not receiving cybersecurity awareness training. In other words, nobody's sitting down with them and say, you know, watch for this, watch for that, and this is the way that you are handling it. That's another big, an important fact on the issues behind the cybersecurity threats. 66% of the business have not reviewed or updated their data breach response. And this, when we talk about data breach, we're talking about a backup and disaster recovery plan that identifies what are the critical files or folders that the company needs to run, and how they're being backed up to where, and how you're going to retrieve those. The other thing is, you know, how are you going to respond in general? Do you have an obligation to any agency, a particular agency of the government or even the private sector, that requires you to notify whenever you have a cybersecurity incident? 53% of the business confirmed that they paid ransom, and the reason that they pay for ransom is that they don't have backups. They don't have any way to come back to business whenever their data is encrypted. And so it is important that you have a way to restore your data without having to pay those hefty fines to the bad guys. And in general, 50% of business are not well prepared for losing data. And there's some statistics out there that talk about the fact that most of those businesses will end up out of business in a short period of time. So let's deep further. The business landscape, technology landscape for 2021 and beyond is looking pretty good for the bad guys. Number one, the number of bad guys out there is increasing. Does the attacks? I mean, we read it every day. Somebody got hacked. We are relying more and more on the use of email as our primary way of communicate. So everything that we're doing is over the internet. And then to complicate things a little bit, we're transitioning workers to their homes, where security is not what it is in the business. So three things to really consider as we look at the situation. But the number one security risk to any business, but specifically to small and mid-sized businesses, are its people. Human error is the major factor behind a breach, either because we send emails where we're not supposed to, we lose our computers, our laptops, our phones, or they get stolen. Sometimes we end up sending confidential data to home networks that are not secure, putting all of that data at risk. And lastly, we answer in many ways to emails that we should not, that are just phishing for information. And employees of companies, sometimes they have a lot of time or they know better and they respond to those emails. So what can they do? What can businesses do? Number one, the most important thing is cybersecurity awareness training. Then businesses need to develop and enforce a good set of technology policies to make sure that workers understand what they can do and cannot do with their technology systems at work, how to make sure that they protect the information and so on and so forth. And lastly, companies need to proactively manage their technology, not just call someone whenever you have a problem, but actually have someone that is looking at your systems on an ongoing basis and making sure that they are protected against cyber threats. This is a very important point. Actually, to be honest with you, in my opinion, the three are very important points businesses need to really look at. So let's start with the first one. Security awareness training. Take the time to talk to employees in your company and about cybersecurity attacks, just so that they know what's going out there, so they're familiarized with them. Informing, how to handle information. So if I get a call and somebody's telling me that I need to change the address for the check that we sent for payment, we need to make sure that we confirm that with the client, maybe not the same person that called, but another. And so we need to have a process in place so that how the business is going to handle such requests. Don't do it automatically. This happened to the city of El Paso. They lost a lot of money because somebody called and asked the check to be mailed to a different address, and nobody questioned it. They just did it, and a lot of money went to their own hands. Make sure that you constantly train your employees to understand that they're being targeted, not only at work, but also at home, whenever they take their business computer to work out of their house. Train the staff on how to identify phishing emails, text or phone calls, because phishing doesn't happen on email only. It also happens through phone calls and text messages. Perform simulated phishing campaigns. There's services available that will send mock emails to all of the employees, and will give you an idea of who's responding to these emails. And not only that, provide some training opportunity to make sure that they don't do it again. Monitor the dark web. There's services that allow you to make sure that you know what the emails are actually out there, and in the dark web, where the information is exchanged among the bad guys, and will identify if some of those even have the password compromise as well. And in general, just make sure that you train your staff, especially if you have to comply with cybersecurity requirements such as HIPAA, PCI, the NIST. Government contractors are now having to comply with NIST standards, and so it is very important that you know how to comply with those requirements. Just in general, the email, because the phishing email is the worst method of obtaining information. Make sure that you train your employees to really watch, whenever they get an email with generic content, and address to anyone in particular, dear valued customer, dear last name, or something that doesn't look correct. Make sure that you don't open that email. Second, make sure that you know the address. There's ways for you to just take your mouse to the email that they're invited, and you can actually read the address that is supposed to go to. Look for urgency. Most of the phishing emails are telling you that you have to do something immediate, that you have to do it right now, because if not, your boss is going to get upset, or you're going to lose an opportunity. Be careful with those emails. Check all the links. Don't just click on them. As a matter of fact, if in doubt, don't click on the link at all. Phishing emails are well known for having terrible grammar and misspellings on the text. It's a dead giveaway that if they're not paying attention to the grammar, that it is a phishing email. Lastly, don't click on the attachment, especially if they're PDF attachments. Don't click on them. It is most likely that they're filled with viruses or malware. Be very, very careful. Take the time to really understand how phishing emails work. Another important step that small and mid-sized businesses need to take is to develop and reinforce a set of technology policies. You need to define exactly how business resources can be used to conduct business on a day-in, day-out basis. Prohibit the use of those devices for personal businesses. There's another gray area in all of this, is when your employees use their personal phone to conduct business. And most of the time, they have all of their business contacts in their personal phone, and so you need to decide if you can live with it, or if it is preferable for you to provide business phone to each one of your employees. Of course, there's a cost associated with it, but the cost of a potential cyber attack is much more expensive. Make sure that people have access policies, not only that they have the right username and password and that is dedicated to them, not only that they don't share it, but to make sure that you assign the access to the right information. don't let everyone have access to all of the business information. This is something that we'll touch on a little bit here next in the next slide. Outline for everyone, especially your HR department and your technology department, how you're going to onboard and offboard employees. So this has to be a process where you notify your technology people to add someone to the username list or as a user, and provide an email and all the access to technology that they're going to need. But then if that person leaves the company, you need to have a process in place so that your technology folks can actually prevent any more access to that person that is leaving the company. This is very important. Make sure that you have and continually update your policy, your password policies. Make sure that you have a combination of a password with certain length of characters, number of characters, the type of characters, at least upper and lowercase letters, numbers, special characters, and make sure that you refresh the passwords on an ongoing basis. Typically, it's a 90-day window that you need to refresh passwords. You can do it 30 days if you want to. It's all depending on what you want to do and how sensitive the information that you keep is. More and more, we're seeing multi-factor authentication. That is the process that you go through whenever you enter your password, and then you need to wait for a code to come via email or via text that you have to then enter. That's the way that they authenticate the user. We expect that practice to increase, and I think it's a good practice for businesses to have implemented in their businesses. Sure, it is more work, it is more troublesome, but at the end of the day, is a very good practice to have. Make sure that you define how you're going to respond in case you get a cyber attack. People need to know who they need to advise, how they need to contain the attack. A lot of times it just takes making sure that you unplug for the internet, but you need to know who's going to be the person doing that. And then just define every other process that is touched by technology so that everybody involved knows how you're going to manage the in and out of people. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next couple of slides. Okay, so let's jump in. Number one, access control. It is very important whenever you define access of employees to your information that you use the principle of least privilege. This means that you only allow the people that need access to the information to actually get there. Most small businesses, the networks are completely open. They're not segmented. So anyone can see financial information. Anyone can find HR information. And so whenever someone is not happy with a company, guess what's going to happen? They are likely to affect those files, erase them, lose them for the business. So only allow the people that need the access to that information to have it. Other than that, block it. And there's many ways of doing that. Password policies. Most passwords, as I mentioned, most passwords today are too easy. They can be broken in a matter of minutes, right? This is very important. So what we recommend our clients is to use passphrases. So let's say you like the movie Gone with the Wind. Well, make that a password. Change some of the characters around, but don't use your pet name. Don't use your kids' names. Don't make him work. Make the bad guys work to gain access to your information. And two, use multi-factor authentication. So now you have a very hard passphrase as a password, and but on top of that, you require that somebody enters a code that you send via a different system. So make use of those two practices to protect your data. Lastly, it is very important that you maintain your technology well managed. This is critical. Number one, make sure that you patch your computers, your servers, your applications. Everything needs to be patched because more and more the bad guys are hitting what hackers call the day zero vulnerabilities. These are problems in the software code that were there when the system or the computer or anything was first produced. So make sure that you're constantly uh, patching your systems, and that you do it in an automated basis. Again, operating systems, they need to be updated. Microsoft has decided that every 5 years they're going to be changing operating systems. Once they talked about Windows 10 being the last system, well, it appears that now they're coming with Windows 11. So sooner or later, your computer will not work or will not be safe because Windows 10 is obsolete. So keep an eye on that. Have someone monitor your network. It's important that you look at who's trying to get in on an ongoing basis. Make sure that your firewall allows you to perform monitoring in an ongoing basis. And make sure that your maintenance and support contracts, not only the firewall, but the servers and the applications are current and paid for. So whenever there's an issue, your IT, your technology folks can actually get to the manufacturer or the developer to help you go through some issues. Ensure that your antivirus and your malware are properly licensed, they're current. So because that's the first line of defense. And if you don't have a good antivirus, believe me, you're going to have problems. Make sure that you backup data and recovery system is in place that is based on a defined plan, that you define what folders need to be protected for how long, and then make sure that you test them. You test those backups. You bring your technology folks and to have them show you how they're going to restore a particular file. Don't assume that because they tell you that the data is backed up, that it's actually backed up. And review your performance reports and your backup plans as well on an ongoing basis. And automate as much as possible. If you're not automating, if you have to do this by hand, and only whenever the technology folks remember, you are really opening to problems. So in summary, you need to invest in your technology. Don't think that because the internet company put a modem to hand you the internet service that you're going to be properly protected. The modem is not a firewall. It doesn't have the capability to block or to identify traffic that is not proper for the business. Just don't just buy consumer grade devices. If you buy a computer at Best Buy, most likely it's going to be one that has an operating system for home and student. Those operating systems do not provide the level of security that a business needs. Certainly, they are much less expensive, but at the end of the day, they're much bigger of a risk to businesses. Make sure that your business firewall is business grade. It means that you have active threat management. I mean, those computers or those devices, I'm sorry, the firewalls come with an additional antivirus protection, and also identify threats that are known already in the internet and block that information from coming in. Make sure that whoever installs your firewall, they configure it correctly. Most firewalls that you buy come open. Most ports are open. You need to make sure that you close all of them and only leave the ones that you need open to conduct business. And lastly, make sure that you engage a professional company for technology support. So that if you don't have the technology resources within your business. If you do, then make sure that they're trained, that they know what's going on, and they can support you. But if you need additional resources, look for one professional company in your area. Okay, so I want to close it up and for questions, but. Number one, let's make sure that you get the facts. Know what's going on out there. There's plenty of information on the news channels about cybersecurity attacks. Just make sure that you understand what's going on. Have everyone think twice before clicking on links. Make sure that they know whether they're suspicious or not. Train them on how to identify. Be suspicious of attachments. Even if they come from a known source, a lot of times, one of your clients, one of your suppliers can get hacked, and then you receive an email from them thinking that that is a valid one, and just to find out that it is another malicious email. Automate your processes. Make sure, like I mentioned earlier, make sure that you identify the policies and that you identify the process. And then once you do this, make sure that you automate it. Protect the passwords. We talk about a password policy to make sure that it's a password with plenty of different characters in it, and that you refresh on an ongoing basis. Beware of strange networks. We all go to Starbucks, sit there, sip some coffee, and then we start checking email right there. Well, those networks are not safe for business systems. Make sure that you know the network that you're accessing the internet from. Use multi-factor authentication. We talked about that quite a bit. And keep your eye on the bad guys. Make sure that you're monitoring the dark web for your business emails. Stay current on what's going on, and lastly, ask for help. There's plenty of companies out there that can help you if you don't have the resources, and I'm sure they'd be willing to talk to you about this. Any questions? We're at the 30-minute mark, so we have another 30 minutes where we can just chat and talk about any questions that you may have.
There we go. Sorry, I was muted. Yes, we actually did have a couple of questions that came in from our Facebook Live. Our first question is, could you give some examples of cyber attacks that you've confronted, and how did you handle the situation?
One of the attacks that we confronted with a client was an email that one of the users opened. We knew right away that they had done something because we received an email from them that looked very suspicious. So we called them up, and right away they say, yeah, we're all receiving this, and this is what's happening in the network. So the first thing that we did, we shut down the firewall and ran out to the client and started cleaning up. Fortunately, it was just a nuisance type of virus. They didn't encrypt any data. So yeah, we ran right away. Fortunately, we have remote access to the network, most of the networks of our clients, and so we were able to stop the attack pretty quickly. Of course, that person had to send an email to, or actually the president of the company ended up sending an email to clients and suppliers about the problem.
Right.
So again, we know the client, we work with them all the time, and so very well, so we know exactly what to do right away.
Great. Another question, what kind of daily basis used apps in the phone should we stay away from because they cause the most cybersecurity?
I'm sorry, I didn't, Shirley, I didn't hear very well. Can you repeat the question?
It's what kind of daily basis used apps in my phone could be getting my business in danger?
It all depends. I mean, we all use a financial package, either QuickBooks, Sage. There's another one that we work with, Microsoft Dynamics. Those are good targets for some of the people that want to get into your information. That's primarily what we see, but the majority of the applications that get hit have to do with email. They're after the email. That's where the connection is. Another thing is the wireless networks. For whatever reason, we don't believe that password protecting wireless networks is important. Believe me, it's terribly important that whenever someone sets a wireless network, that they password protected using the same criteria that we just described before, and making sure that few people have access to the administration rights of those devices. As a matter of fact, there's another one of those policies. Only the people that need to work on your networks and systems should have access to administrative rights. Don't just give that away, because then anybody can come into the network and change different components and maybe your technology pretty bad.
Right. Okay, we have another question. If I've been hacked, what is the next step?
The very first step, as I mentioned to you, is making sure that you train your users. That everybody's aware of what's going on, that they know how to react. That's the number one, right? Bring your technology expert to talk to them during staff meetings. Make it an ongoing conversation, not just every once in a while mention cyber security. when all of this started here in our company, we just thought, hey guys, be careful, we have this problem. Today we make it an ongoing conversation. What else can we do? What other techniques are coming out? What are vendors saying? So it is important that it becomes part of the discussion, just like you discuss profits and cash flow. Talk about cybersecurity. It's a big risk now. Then, like I mentioned, the second step is making sure that you identify those policies that will govern how you handle technology. And those policies must include identifying and documenting the processes that you must follow for changing anything. Like I mentioned, in case of the payments to specific checking accounts, you need to make sure that if somebody asks for a change to the address where payments are to be sent, that you double check with your supplier, maybe a different person, in writing that they actually requested that to be changed. And just again, making sure that you understand how your data, your information goes back and forth. As a matter of fact, data transmission is one of the biggest items when it comes to complying with cybersecurity requirements like NIST and HIPAA. You need to have a change management process in place that identifies how you're going to handle any request for change with a particular system or a process. Okay. So that's very, very important. And lastly, make sure that you handle technology. Those 3 steps will actually short of guaranteeing that you're going to be safe, at least they strengthen your ability to withstand attacks.
Great. Okay, so we have one more question. How does cybersecurity insurance work, and is it worth it?
Cybersecurity agents?
Cybersecurity insurance, yes.
Oh, insurance. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Cybersecurity insurance is actually an important piece of protection that most businesses should have. Most of the insurances protect you against, number one, protects you with the cost to cover the cost of what it will take to help a client clean any cybersecurity incident that might have come through you. They also help you with funds to clean your reputation so that you can communicate with everyone via different media about the incident and what and what steps you took. They also help you with any litigation that you may face as a result of the attack. That's very, very important. Most liability insurance nowadays are asking for some testing. They call it penetration testing, which is something the companies do, and we can do that as well. But basically, they start to attack your network from different locations. It could be a physical attack. So if one morning you show up at your office and in the parking lot you see a bunch of USBs just thrown out, and a lot of people are liable to pick them up and test them in their computer, and guess what? It contains something ugly. This happened to a utility in the northeast of the United States, and after 3 months, they found out and someone had actually connected that USB. So that will the liability, cybersecurity liability insurance is going to help you with any litigation costs that you may face as a result of that. It's important that you have a conversation with them and define what exactly you need. I don't have to tell you, in our business, we have to have cybersecurity liability. But now we're seeing that some of our clients that are not in technology are being asked for that. So we're very familiar with some of the steps that they need to take to make sure that they get the coverage.
Okay. Okay. Well, we have actually one more question. I thought that was going to be our last question. Are we vulnerable to third-party applications hosted on our network?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I was saying that make sure that whatever application resides in your network are properly protected by a maintenance and support contract. Because just like Microsoft, the third-party applications are developing security patches on an ongoing basis. and you need to make sure that you're receiving those, that you're installing them, and that way you have some level of protection. And then also make sure that whenever there's a problem, that you have a number you can reach out to and talk about your problems. We require this of all of our clients. If they use any particular package of financial information or a business enterprise type solution, that they have the maintenance and support contract so that we can then submit tickets for them, that we can resolve issues for them uh, through all of this company. So that's very important, very, very important.
Great. And then we did have a comment from Rosario Fernandez. Very informational and good data. Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you, Rosario. Appreciate it very much. This is my contact information on the screen. If anyone has another question in the future, don't hesitate to email me. You can also email Charlie, and I'll be more than glad to give you an answer to whatever question you have. If I don't know it, I can always find the information for you. But this is my contact information, and I always check it.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen really quick so we can wrap it up. Give me 1 second. My PowerPoint is, there we go. Well, we had our questions. So thank you again, Mr. Rico, for joining us today. The session was very informational, and I know our businesses joining had very good information learned from you. We have our next session on how to manage federal funds, PPP and EIDL best practices on August 26th with Mr. Marius Stein, if you'd like to join us then for our next webinar. Thank you all for joining us who did, and thank you again, Mr. Rico, for giving us all that information.